So you as a lawyer, have you noticed that, okay, this segment of people are, more prone to labor trafficking than others comparatively?
Yes, if you see in the past in America, domestic workers, people who are working at home, babysitting job, nurse babysitting, and there were cases in America as well. If you see a few years ago, there was an Indian diplomat who brought some worker from India, and she was treating her like a slave, and there was labor trafficking. In the past, if you see in America, the domestic workers were brought from third world countries. They were brought from Africa. They were brought from Caribbean islands, and they were not given certain privileges. There were a lot of Chinese workers. There was a big movement of Chinese workers in America because a lot of China markets are there in America, and they were kept at in their homes, and they were exploited. Chinese workers, that was big in the past, but because there was a lot of movement in Chinese workers, and the American government started auditing, and they started going and doing the search. Chinese workers were all, the employees were all being arrested. And the second is, if you see people from Caribbean islands, and third, you could see many people from even Philippines. A lot of Filipino workers are being exploited. I mean, in terms of sex trade and other things. So now it was only blue collar workers in the past. Now this has come to the software professionals in the country, in US.
Yes. Yes.
And
I
mostly they're subjected by students and the H1B employees. And what is happening is they're threatening them, saying that if you report to the government, we will terminate your H1B. And the second threat, they will say, we will not give you a green card. You will not get a green card. We will deport you. So they're doing all unlawful measures by the employers. I don't want to particularly blame only employers, but I would say employees are also partially equally participating in such schemes, because it takes two hands to clap. It's not just one hand. It is not that I can't just blame only employers, but employers have a higher onus and obligation to follow the immigration law and the Department of Labor law, Constitution, tax laws. You being an US employer, you have an obligation towards the US government. But these employees who are coming from overseas, either students or H1B workers, they're non-immigrant workers. So they don't have that obligation. I mean, they do have an obligation, but not knowing the law, because they're so desperate, they just want to get a job, they just want to get an H1B, they just want to get a green card. So they would, they are conniving with the employers. So I don't want to just blame employers per se, quote unquote, but I would also make employees partially responsible. But again, when we hear this, oh, we come to a foreign country, we don't know the law of this land. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. When you live in a country like America, you need to know the law of the land. And that is not an excuse.